overthinking things, unless you're a nothing box kind of person, but even still, they say something like 10,000 or 100,000. It's like a crazy number, the amount of thoughts that go through your head every day, all day long. When you are sitting there doing nothing, or even if you are doing something, stuff's going through your head. You're responding to the things you see, you're responding to the things you hear, you are thinking of your own stuff by yourself. If you're an imaginative person, you are making up very weird things. If you are a direct person, you are probably talking to people in your head. If you are upset at someone, boy, it's really going in it. You're like defending yourself to them, and you're like condemning them, and like la la la, saying a bunch of things that you probably wouldn't say out loud, but you're like figuring all these things out in your head. Sometimes it is good stuff, sometimes it is bad stuff. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy by the things that we say to ourselves. It's called self-talk, and it's something that everybody does. And the way you talk to yourself affects your life. Your choices, your feelings, your responses, your relationship with God, your relationship with other people, your relationship with yourself. How you feel about yourself is a lot less based on what other people think about you than about what you tell yourself. It's very true. So for example, remember those nonverbals and how I told you don't assume it's about you or whatever? Somebody's got a migraine and they're squinting at you. What do you say to yourself? They must be mad at me. What did I do? Why are they mad at me? I didn't do anything. I don't think I did anything. They shouldn't be mad at me. What is wrong with them? They're just so moody and la 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 la. And next thing you know, you have basically like written them off, decided they're a terrible person, or I'm always doing something wrong. I did something wrong. Oh man, I'm always totally blowing it. I bet everybody noticed that I did that. I bet everybody notices that I totally blow. I'm always blowing it. I'm just such and on you go. And now you think you are the worst person in the world. And nobody likes you. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Guess I'll eat some worms. Big fat juicy worms, little tiny skinny worms. See how the big ones squirm. If you want to write that down, you can sing it to yourself later. It's not useful though. Okay, so what you tell yourself is important. And so what we're going to be studying this week and some next week are some wrong thought patterns. Some of the ways that we can think and get in the habit of thinking that's actually not good for us. Communication is important, and as we have learned, your communication with other people is going to define whether you have good relationships or bad relationships, right? If you go up and slap somebody in the face, it's probably going to hurt your relationship. If you tell somebody that they're ugly, that's not good. So we know that what you tell other people is important. And we even know how you tell other people what you tell other people is important. I want you to apply all of that to yourself. And the way you think about yourself, you think about the world, you think about the universe, etc. Worms, all that stuff. So, here we go. Let's learn stuff. Do you have an extra handout? Oh, yeah. I would like one. All right. Now, for starters, at the bottom, you have this triangle of thoughts, emotions, and actions. And it goes round and round and round. That is your life. What you think affects how you feel. How you feel affects what you do. What you do affects how you think. And you can probably see this pattern. And it goes around in a circle even though it's a triangle. Figure that out, mathematicians. Now underneath there are words that you may not be able to read because they're kind of fuzzy. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and it would be a good idea if you can't read them to write them down. Thoughts. The stories we tell ourselves impact our emotions and actions. And I'm not talking about stories like once upon a time, little bunny foo-foo running through the forest, catching up the fucking on the head. That will affect your emotions, may make you feel better. Emotions. Emotions affect our thoughts and actions. Okay, this is a pattern here. How you feel affects what you think and what you do. And then actions. Actions influence thoughts and emotions. Okay, so moving up to the top, let's talk about some wrong thinking patterns. Wrong thinking pattern number one. And it's right there on your paper. You need to write in all or nothing. An all or nothing thinking pattern is also known as black or white. Things are always this or they are always this. And as you know, you should never use always and never. So, for example, I did something bad and therefore I am all bad. If I didn't get a perfect grade, I am a failure. You either agree with me or we are enemies. There's no middle ground. You're a bad person or you're a good person. You are a black cat or a white cat. And it's very, very clear. There's no, you are a human being and sometimes you do the right thing and sometimes you do the wrong thing. There's no, maybe I should be understanding because maybe they're having a bad day. It's like, nope, it's always this way or it's always this way. This also applies to things called stereotypes, which is when you do this regarding a group of people. All Mexicans are this way. All Mexicans are 6 foot tall. That is a really bad stereotype because it's not even close to true, they're usually short. All people from here are like this. All people from this race are this way. All Northerners act like this. All Southerners drink sweet tea and eat grits and say, bless your coffee, no heart. I don't like grits. So it's not a good stereotype. Stereotypes are when you decide that everybody is like that, not most people. There's a difference, and if you want to know, the two terms that you need to know for that are stereotype and generalization. A generalization is when you're saying generally most people, blah, 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 blah. Most Mexicans have darker brown skin, and they're often shorter. That's a generalization. That is not a mean thing. That is not a racist thing. It's a generalization. Says most of them are like, it's a literal fact thing. Most Americans are loud compared to a lot of people around the world. Don't know if you knew that, but I've been to a lot of places around the world, and it's pretty funny the way they think about Americans. But if they said every American in the world is loud and obnoxious and, you know, whatever, and they shake hands too hard aggressively, and they all look like Trump, I mean, really, that's a bad stereotype. A lot of you who are introverts will be like, oh, don't say that about me. Because it's not true, for one, and it makes people act to you in the wrong kind of way, assuming things about you that aren't true. So you can use generalizations, don't make them into stereotypes. How a generalization comes to a stereotype is that always or never thing. So even when you use it, don't ever use that in an argument because it ruins your argument. All people from wherever are like this, now you've lost it because it can't be true. Okay, that's all or nothing. Now why did I put up this weird little maze? If you always turn left, if I told you that the way to live your life is to always turn left, that's the right way to go. So for example, if someone was teaching you, it's always right to address when you are upset with someone. Always. Are there times when maybe you shouldn't? Oh yeah. I'm thinking of a few things myself when it's like I got mad for no decent good reason. I got mad because I was having a bad day. I got mad because of something stupid and I needed to just get over it, or I needed to deal with my own sin problem with God. It wasn't really about the other person. So I shouldn't jump on that and say, oh, so-and-so said we should always address it, so the first thing I do is I go and address it because that's the right thing to do. Now I'll tell you, lions tend to be more of the all or nothing type. This is the right way to live. Everybody who's a Christian should, I'm going to leave that blank and let you think of what you should put in it. You probably heard someone say, if you are a Christian, you should, now there are some things that are, if you are a Christian, you should love the Lord with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength, love your neighbor as yourself. On these two things hang all the law and commandments. But if you say, if you are a Christian, you should always wear pink shoes. If you don't wear pink shoes, you're not a good Christian. We're all going down. Okay, so always turn left. What's going to happen? Well, you start out, and if you turn left the first time, that's good. And you turn left the next time, okay. Turn left the next time. Oops. You lost. Turn left to go right. Because in opposite land, you can't win that way. You're stuck. And that's what often happens with all or nothing thinking. You get stuck somewhere because it can't be true all the time. And so now you have this crisis in your own head of like, what do I do and what did I believe and was I totally wrong about everything? Well, no, you weren't. It's just like you shouldn't have done the all or nothing thing. You should do the most times or sometimes, or maybe we should think about this on a case-by-case basis. So turn the correct way. That would be the good thing to do. But you got to figure out what that is. Okay, number 2. Oh, good. That's number 1. The next thing is always on the next slide. That would be incorrect. Okay, so just clarifying. You're always perfect or you're always a failure. Those of us who are perfectionists really struggle with this. And when I was in school, if I didn't get 100, it was devastating. And then I got to college and things got a lot harder. And so does that make me more of a failure because I couldn't get 100s in college like I could in high school? Well, then come to find out, in high school, they did something called a curve, which which basically meant so many of the kids in my class had such horrible, horrible grades that they would like bump everybody up like 20 points. Well, if I got an 80, they would bump everybody up 20 points. If I got a 90, they'd bump everybody up 10 points. And so they'd get mad at me because I blew the curve a lot. And so then I got a lot of hundreds and thought I was really smart. Oh, man. Then I got to college and found out I wasn't nearly as smart as I thought I was. What a bummer, you know? And then I learned the grade actually doesn't necessarily represent how intelligent I am or even how much work I put into it. So I need to rethink whether I did this well or did this badly. Maybe the grade's not the point. And maybe the grade doesn't represent my worth as a human being. My worst grade I ever got was in geography, actually. And then I went to another country. And fortunately, the pilot knew where we were going because we ended up in the right place. All right, so if you catch yourself thinking always or never, even if you're thinking it, maybe you're not saying it, but if you're thinking that, think of this all or nothing thing and rethink. Okay, number 2, which comes after number 1. Catastrophizing. Now that's a fun word. That's the reason I made a PowerPoint, was so I didn't have to spell this for you. Because, yeah. Catastrophizing. And I'm going to pronounce it so you can pronounce it correctly. As like a homeschool thing or a big reader thing where you learn these amazing big words, but then you say them to somebody and they're like, what? I used to call picture skew instead of picturesque because I'd never heard anybody actually say it. So if you're like that, just hang around people who aren't as smart as you because they don't know the words anyway and they'll be like, ooh, big words. Alright, catastrophizing is not just when it's like, oh no, it's the end of the world. That is part of it. COVID! I am sure just because I touched that thing, I'm going to die. I know it. I can feel it happening to me right this moment inside my. I can just feel it. I just know all these little COVID things are taking over, and I'm just done for. Eat some worms. That's catastrophizing, obviously. The media loves to do this, using fear to get people to do what they want. If you vote for so and so, it's going to be the end of the world. You will never be able to vote again. It's going to turn into a dictatorship. You are going to lose all of your rights. Every single one of them. You might as well live in a cave. Okay. That's catastrophizing. So you kind of tend to apply bad things to yourself. So something bad happens to somebody got in a car accident. So now on the way home, you're watching out for all the cars because surely that is going to happen to me too. So you apply all the bad things to yourself, and then you also take small things and turn them into big things. But they're usually negative things. It's not like, oh, somebody did something nice for me. I bet it's going to get better and better and better, and I'm going to be the happiest person alive. We don't usually have wrong thinking patterns in the right direction. They're wrong because they're the wrong direction. So instead, somebody says one little thing to you that feels like criticism, and you're like, oh, they think I'm ugly, and they think I'm horrible, and they think I'm this, and that means that they're not my friend anymore, and that means they're going to tell all the other people, and nobody's going to be my friend anymore, and I might as well just move to Canada because it's hopeless. And I'll get COVID on the way and have a car accident. That's catastrophizing. It's also when you kind of think what's going on that is rough, because rough things are going to happen, and even conflict happens. You tend to kind of think it's never going to end, it's always going to be this bad, or it's going to get even worse. If you change something, it's probably going to be worse than it is right now, and so you hate change. If we move to someplace new, you'll never make any friends, and it will be horrible, and everybody thinks you're a weirdo because you're from the South where you eat grits and drink sweet tea and say things like, honey, sweetie, darling. Okay. You also kind of tend to think that you can't handle stuff. That's catastrophizing too. Oh, the stressful thing happened. Oh, it's the end of the world. I can't deal with this. I'm sure I won't be able to deal with this. If this other thing happens, if there's a conflict, I won't deal with it right, and it's all going to go bad. If you tell yourself that enough, it probably will come true. And that's the problem with talking in your head. Those of you who were in the play, we talked about this a lot. If you tell yourself over and over again, I'm going to trip on my way up the stairs, I'm going to trip up my stairs, I hope I don't trip up on my way upstairs, but I bet I'm going to trip on my way up. What are you going to do? Probably. Is it the stairs' fault? It's not even your feet's fault, it's your brain's fault. You told yourself so many times that your body was ready for you to do this. It's almost like you trained yourself to trip up the stairs. Congrats. You are successful. All right, the next one. Sorry, anybody watching, I missed the screen. Maximizing or minimizing? So number 1 is all or nothing. Number 2 is catastrophizing. Then there's maximizing thinking, or minimalist and maximalist? I don't think that's a word. Somebody can look that up and let me know later. Alright, so maximizing and minimizing. Again, we're talking about negative things. So it's not like somebody does something nice and you're like, woohoo, I'm going to blow this up and make this even bigger than it is, and the world is such a happy place. We usually don't have problems with that. What we do have problems with is somebody says, maybe that outfit doesn't look the best on you, and it's like, this is the ugliest thing in the whole entire world, and if I ever wear it again, everyone will, laugh at me behind my back and turn it into this huge thing. Or you're like, that person doesn't like me at all. What? That's where it's good to have a logical friend. If you're like that, and you're a feeler, feelers tend to be more this way. If you're like that, talk to somebody who's logical and reasonable, and they'll be like, no. They'll say other things, but that's the general idea. No. Okay, so that's when you take some small thing and you turn it into something bigger. Now, one of the ways that this really affects our life is if you're this type of person, you can really, really hurt yourself when it comes to your memories. So say, for example, your family goes on a trip. There's a big, long drive. It was good for the most part, but for about 10 minutes there, something happened and there was tension. When you get to the end of the day, do you think that day was a failure, or do you think that day was a good day with a little bit of tension in it? If you are a maximizer, you think that day was a failure because it wasn't perfect. And so when you remember it, because you told yourself that so many times, when you remember it, you remember those 10 minutes. And you reject all the rest of the stuff, and over time, you train your brain to make this bigger and bigger and bigger. So then a few years later, when you think of that vacation, and your siblings are like, oh, that was really fun, you were like, no, that was terrible and bad. And it's a really, really, really difficult thing to get over. To get over it, you have to train your brain the opposite direction. In the same way you trained your brain this way, that kind of came naturally. To do it the other way, you got to go that way. And that's why the Bible talks about renewing your mind, making it new, making it new, making it new. Tell yourself the truth. Think on these things that are true and lovely and just and good and right. Some things are true, but they're not lovely, just, and good. Don't spend all your time thinking about those. Go this direction. Go this direction. So what you tell yourself in your own head, very often what's naturally in there, it's just like the toothpaste thing, what's naturally there comes from the flesh. So you need to learn to think according to the Spirit. And you do that from the Scriptures, which is why memorizing the Bible is so good. The truth sets you free. So if you struggle with anger, for example, and so when somebody beats you at a game, you get angry, you want to throw the game in the air, you want to punch somebody, you want to never be their friend again. We're not playing anymore. This is over. That's the wrong way to think. So memorize the Bible verse. He who has no rule over his own spirit is like a city that's broken down without walls. Memorize that, and the next thing you start getting angry, you start blowing this thing way out of proportion because it is just a game. It's not that big of a deal. Go that direction instead. Okay. Mindset. Oh, minimizing is also there. Minimizing is when there is something big and you make it small. So, for example, somebody says 10 nice things about you, and they say one constructive criticism. They hate me! So you took all the good things and you made them little dinky things. They don't count. Because what you're worried about is the bad things. So you're always on the lookout for the bad things, and all the good things just, they don't even really matter that much. That's bad. Don't do that. That's funny. Okay, we'll have to get to the wham reboot next week. We'll get there. But the last one, number 4, is a victim mindset. The victim mindset is not my fault. I didn't do anything. It's their fault. They're always the ones who were causing the problems, and I was just being nice, and I was playing Monopoly. I was just taking over the world and, annihilating everybody and then gloating over it. But they got mad. It's their fault. I should be allowed to steal because I was poor. It's not my fault. Did you get a job? Well, no, because I'm so Don't. When you catch yourself blaming everybody and you're not asking yourself, am I part of this problem? It's probably a victim mindset. You're using your disadvantages, whatever you think they are, and blaming everything on everybody else. It's no good. Now, we've got about 5 more to learn next week, and also play the games and do the easy peasy things. There's a lot going on. We've only got actually 3 weeks left. Oh. So, turn the page for your homework. Okay, I put a blank with your name on it so that it's easy to remember. This is the thing you do first. Okay. And if you're like, oh, I forgot to put my name on it, I'm the worst person in the world, I'm such a failure, just, okay, we need to practice. Learn the worm song, it will help you. Literally, like, if you learn songs like that and sing them, it actually makes you feel better and you're less likely to be in a little, mud puddle that you put yourself in. There's the worms. Nobody loves me, everybody hates me, guess I'll eat some worms. Big, fat, juicy worms, little, tiny, skinny worms. See how the big ones squirm, and I'm really weirded out that that's on video now. There's another one that my family memorized. Gloom, despair, and agony on me. Oh, deep, dark depression, excessive misery. Oh, it's helpful if you have a friend who can do the O part. If I had no bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Oh, thank you. Gloom, despair, and agony on me, which when I was growing up, I was like, are they saying agony or acne? But either one, you can make it fun. Okay, so here's what you're going to do, is you're going to take a situation and explain how a wrong thinking pattern would respond to this. So I gave you 3 situations. You're welcome to come up with your own if you'd like one better. You didn't do as well at such and such as you'd hoped. Playing the game outside, your team lost. It's everybody else's fault. Somebody cheated, I'm sure of it. Someone gave you a compliment, but then they also gave you a helpful suggestion. They hate me. My teacher doesn't like me at all. Yeah.
They have to make real life or
No, you can make it up. This unicorn came and poked me, and I'm a victim. You can be a victim for that one. Your friend hasn't talked to you yet at the party. They're just totally ignoring me. Well, maybe they don't even know you're here. Stop it. Okay, so then you're going to write down the self-talking inside your head, and this is where you get to go in the wrong direction for once. Tell me what you would think if you were a victim mindset, or if you were all or nothing mindset, or something like that. Oh, this is, just tell me the whole thing. And then the emotions you would feel if you talk to yourself that way. Probably bad. You have to script it. It's okay. Actions or beliefs you might choose because of the emotions and the talking inside your head. So now you've decided, I'm never talking to that person again, etc. And then we get to go to the truth, because that's always the best place to go. When you realize that you're doing this, go in the direction of the truth. What is a truth you can tell yourself? Maybe this is extreme, maybe I should ask for help, maybe I should read the Bible, etc. Maybe I should sing the song, watch the video, you'll be able to learn it for yourself. And then it's extra points option 1, write out verses about how God wants us to think and or what he wants us to think about. So you can even Google this, Bible verses on how we should think. You'll find ones about renewing your mind, thinking on what is true, all kinds of great stuff. No limit how many, but you have to write them. You can't just copy and paste. I know how to copy and paste. Extra points 2. Explain how each of those verses that you wrote down applies to a certain wrong thinking pattern or wrong self-talk. What kind of a setting or what kind of thinking could quoting that verse in self-talk help? Self-help talk, etc. You can read, you'll figure it out. Alright, so this is your last week to get points. So work on this, lots of points. Work on other stuff, lots of points. I'm looking forward to your last week to see what you can do. Alright. Right, so, any questions about any of the assignments? Okay. I think that is everything. Next week we are doing some review games to get points, and also the rest of our wrong thinking patterns, and that will be week 15. 14. We only have 2 weeks left. Oh my goodness. Wow, it went by fast. So next week will be that, and then we will also do some review, and then of course the last day we are doing prizes. So you want to show up for that, buddy. And if you don't get the prize you want, that doesn't mean you're a victim. You should have done 17 more projects, so you won. Alright, that's it for me. Anybody who wants handouts that they're missing, they are over there. Anybody